everybody, welcome to Ad America TV. My name is Aninda, one of the EIs here in Ad America, and we welcome our audience joining us online. We hope you are doing well and staying safe at home. Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. On this event, we'll be having Muslim reporter stories on celebrating Ramadan and diversity in the U.S. But before we begin, how about we spice things up a little bit with a trivia? The question for today is, what percentage of the United States population is Muslim? Is it A, 1.1%, B, 0.5%, C, 11%, or D, 2.3%? Take a guess and let us know your answer on our social media, because on the end of this event, we'll do a live shout out for those of you who can guess the answer correctly. Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag at America's Instagram account. Now, I would like to invite for the opening remarks Bapak Nicholas K. Singer, Deputy Press Attaché of U.S. Embassy Jakarta. To Bapak Nicholas, the floor is yours.
Selamat sore semuanya. Nama saya Nicholas Geisinger, Wakil Attaché Pers di Kedutaan Besar Amerika Serikat di Jakarta. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to our speakers joining in the early morning in the United States. And thank you to everyone tuning in from Jakarta, Yogyakarta, Banda Aceh, Bandung, Bogor, Malang, more cities than I can even read. Welcome to everyone. And selamat menunaikan ibadah puasa, Ramadan Kareem to everyone observing Ramadan this month. The holy month of Ramadan is a time when Muslims around the world fast and pray and strive to do good deeds. And we can also celebrate our diversity. Muslims in the United States are from various backgrounds and reflect the cultural and religious diversity of our country. Just like in Indonesia, millions of American Muslims practice their religion without restrictions. They celebrate Ramadan with prayers at mosques or Islamic centers, fasting, gathering with friends and family at iftar, and engaging in their communities. As two of the biggest democratic countries in the world, Indonesia and the United States, Muslims in these countries have that freedom. So let's keep in our thoughts also our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world who do not enjoy the same freedom. In the United States, Ramadan is also a reminder of the millions of Muslim Americans who enrich our nation each day, serving in government, as teachers, as entrepreneurs, and as journalists. And today we are lucky to have with us 3 Muslim journalists working in the United States who will talk about their experiences. And coming from different US communities as they do, I hope they will also share their unique stories of celebrating Ramadan. Ramadan reinforces values that are honored by millions around the world. And Americans and Indonesians share values of religious freedom and respect for tolerance and diversity. So tonight, while we celebrate and learn together, let's consider how we can build broader and deeper mutual respect and cooperation among our people. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to our speakers, and terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Pak Nicholas, for the warm remarks. Without further ado, please welcome our moderator for tonight, Mbak Yeyen Rostiani, International Desk Editor of Republika. Mbak Yeyen, the time is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ramadan Kareem. Good morning, America. Good evening, Indonesia. Tonight we have a very fascinating topic of discussion. Muslim reporters share stories on celebrating Ramadan and diversity in the U.S. And you can watch our discussion on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and website at America. And before we start to introduce our distinguished speakers, I'd like to say hello to our audience tonight. There are plenty of them. UIN Araniri Banda Aceh, UIN UPN Veteran Yogyakarta, Universitas Al-Azhar Jakarta, STAI Al-Fatlah Bogor, UIN Jakarta, Universitas Atmajaya Jakarta, Universitas Indonesia, my neighbor, and Universitas Multimedia Nusantara. And I want to say hello to American Corner at Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang and Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. They will be cross-post on Facebook there. And hi everyone, don't forget to write down your questions. And if you feel more comfortable to write down your question in Bahasa, don't worry, it's okay. Our team will assist you to interpret or to translate it in English. And now I'd like to introduce our speakers. Hello, everybody. The first will be Gulsera Hoya. Am I correct?
Gulchehra Hoja.
Hoja.
Assalamualaikum. Yeah, yeah.
It's so early for you, right?
I know.
Thank you very much.
It's very hard to pronunciation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
She is an Uyghur American journalist working for Radio Free Asia since 2001. In November 2019, Hoja received the Magnitsky Human Rights Award for her reporting on the ongoing human rights crisis in Xinjiang. In 2020, Hoja received the Courage in Journalism Awards from the International Women's Media Foundation, and she was listed among the 500 most influential Muslims. Good job. And the next, Aisha Khan. She is a religion journalist reporting on U.S. Muslim communities, working as a reporter with Religion News Service. And her reporting has been published in the Associated Press, The Washington Post, USA Today, NBC News, Think Progress, Vice News, American Journalism Review, Religion and Politics Magazine, and other national US publications. And she also serves as a judge for the National Gold Zahir Prize for journalists covering Muslims in America. And the last but not the least, Mbak Dania Iman. Hello. I think this is my neighbor. She was my neighbor.
Hello, Mbak Yayan.
Hello. She's an international broadcaster and multimedia journalist at the Voice of America in Washington, D.C. She has reported the presidential inauguration in Washington, D.C., Comic-Con in San Diego, and recent Academy Awards or the Oscar in Los Angeles. Dania holds a master's degree in journalism and technical communication from Colorado State University, and bachelor's degree in business administration with concentration in computer information system and marketing, also from Colorado State University. So ladies, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, that's called, I call it spirit. Okay, the first 8 minutes will go for Gulchehra Hoja.
Thank you so
yours.
Very warm welcoming. Thank you so much. And hi everyone. Assalamualaikum. Hi Indonesia friends. Good evening for them, right? And today is a very beautiful day in Washington. Beautiful morning. Alhamdulillah. My name is Gulchehra. I've been working in Radio Free Asia more than 20 years. And I am very happy Muslim. Alhamdulillah, after I came to United States, I find my religion truly. So I had the opportunity to learn what is Islam actually after I came to this country. That's why we freely, even I can wear my hijab on TV. Even I am also the first hijabi TV host in Uyghur TV history, I think. I'm very proud. And as American Muslim, we are very, happy in this during Ramadan time. Also, we were gather and sharing our values, our happiness together, and we have the Uyghur communities establish a new mosque recently, and it is a very big achievement for the Uyghur community in the Washington, also the Virginia area. So, but as you know, in the Uyghur region back home, we call East Turkestan our country's name. So it's occupied by Chinese government in 1949. Since then, millions of Muslim people, especially the Uyghur people, now have no freedom or political or human rights in the East Turkestan, but their identity is being threatened, and even their existence is threatened. What Uyghurs are going through now is a genocide through and thought it is the genocide happening now and again after the Holocaust. It is the Holocaust in 21st century, actually. It is the biggest shame of our century. It is the shame of humanity. Now, in this hour, while I'm speaking of the unspeakable experience of Uyghurs under Chinese rule, including my mother, father, brother, relatives, and friends. Many, many Uyghurs are leaving this world with their eyes filled with tears and with their heart broken, silent, agonized, They are desperate to be saved, but they do not know that the world is not acting enough to save them, unfortunately. Never in my life I imagined to be witnessing a genocide, let alone a genocide carried out against your own people. It has been more than 5 years that we were journalists at the Radio Free Asia, have been receiving no other news than the horrific description of the life of Uyghurs, full of pain, suffering, and deaths from an invisible war zone, my former homeland. So the stories about the Uyghur genocide, China's crimes against humanity, and the detention camps, prisons, slave labor, many, many horrible situation. And since 2016, more than 3 million of Uyghur and other Muslim people were brutally persecuted and interned in the concentration camp just because we have worked to expose the abuse that would otherwise be silenced by China's state-controlled media and CCP authorities. Me and my Uyghur colleagues at the RFA becoming the target of an authoritarian regime. 8 of our journalists' family members in the camp, and the Chinese government trying to silence us. I have been reporting Uyghurs issues, human rights abuses in our region on Radio Free Asia for 20 years about all those repression and the persecution of the Uyghurs facing, and the religious persecution. And our evidence suggests that the Chinese government has declared that normal religious activists are protected by declaring that citizens have religious freedom in their own laws. Since the Chinese Communist Party colonized East Turkestan in 1949, the Chinese government has been restricting the religious freedom of the indigenous people, especially the Uyghur people, through various political movements and repressions. It's doing, as we know from the history, that human connection are the vital part of our existence. They are like the roots of the tree to anchoring us into the depth of the soil. I'm sorry. While allowing to grow up the sky, the life of Uyghurs, like that of other peoples, is established around the connections, and yet the Chinese government, which is determined to wipe us out as the other, the alien, and above all, the enemy of within, is pricelessly destroying this connection mercilessly. So since 2017, my direct relatives all around, about 25 people, been rounded up to the camps, and the Chinese government threatening me to trying to silence me. Even last year during May, they announced me as a terrorist. Of course, it's a badge of honor for me, but it's other level of a threat to Uyghur journalists in the Uyghur soil, the American soil. So it's another warning. Chinese government trying to reach other countries, Uyghurs, and threatening them by putting their relatives in the camp, arresting them, harassing them. So right now, in Uyghur region, Uyghur people being arrested, just sending to camp just because of they name their children a Muslim name, even just because of their fasting during the Ramadan, praying and keeping a religious book at home, or thankful to God on the phone. If you do one of this, it will turn into a crime. So the Chinese government first targeted Uyghurs in targeting religious Uyghurs first, then other scholars, even the musicians, everybody. So in the process, Chinese government has also stepped up its crackdown on mosques and cemeteries in the Uyghur Autonomous Region, which began in 2016, in addition to burning religious programs, including the Quran, restrict Uyghurs' freedom of religion. And there is a definite connection between the religion of any nation and the culture that nation, the Uyghurs have never lived without faith, have historically practiced many religions, and for centuries, the Uyghurs have lived peacefully on an equal footing with all different religions and nationalities. Since the millennium of the conversion to the Islam, it has incorporated some of the customs of its own nation into the religion of Islam, forming an Islamic faith and the culture that has taken on local color that is unique to its own nation. In conclusion, China's brutal repression has exposed human rights abuses, genocide, amid at the systematic torture and the complete destruction of mental and physical health. For Uyghurs, choosing faith today is tantamount to the choosing death. Yet they have not lost faith in justice. Here they are true believers. They are paying the price for their lives, for their faith. So the Chinese Communist Party is systematically destroying not only Muslims, but all believers of all religions, and they believes by using state terrorism in order to maintain its rule. While this proves that the Chinese Communist Party and the government are committing the most serious genocide, and the genocide in East Turkestan, and this in such a great day as the holy month of Ramadan, the Uyghurs will inevitably face more severe persecution and depression today. So Uyghur people need your voice. Uyghur people need whole world support and help. I believe anyone who heard, anyone who know about Uyghur region will do something to stop Chinese Communist Party to continue this genocide. And for this, all the journalists, especially Muslim journalists, we have heavy duty in our shoulder. So thank you for all the people who paying attention to the Uyghur region and Uyghur coast. And I am very thankful who's giving us a platform and giving us the voice to speak about the truth to the CCP, to the Chinese government. Thank you very much giving me this opportunities.
Thank you, Gulchera. Maybe next time you can tell about your experience when you came first to America, the most interesting experience when you came to America. But now I'd like to give the floor to Ayesha. Are you ready, Ayesha?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum, brothers and sisters. Ramadan Kareem, and thank you everyone so much for having me with you during this, this holy and blessed month of Ramadan. This month of community and brotherhood, and thank you for the warm welcome. So I've been working as a journalist professionally for about 5 years. As you heard, I was primarily with Religion Youth Service, but I've freelanced for years and written stories that have been published at many national outlets. I wrote a piece recently that was published on the front page of the Boston Globe, actually, about the Uyghur community in Boston and what it's going through. But before I began my career professionally, I was I was editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper. I was editor-in-chief of a a magazine on my college campus. So this has always been something that's very much I'm very passionate about, and that's very much in my blood. So I then went on to study journalism and Middle Eastern studies at university. That was my first degree. I'm now almost finished my master's degree in Islamic studies when I realized that I really want to focus on covering Muslim communities in America. So unlike many of the other the panelists here and most Muslim journalists in America, my sole focus is, of my work is actually on covering American Muslim communities and religion in America. So, I write about a very wide range of issues. My stories include things about human rights, religious persecution, pop culture, politics, technology and startups, and health and public health more, a huge range of issues. But all of these stories for me are generally done with a focus and, an eye towards how these issues are affecting Muslim communities and how Muslim communities are engaging with these issues. So sometimes that means writing stories that are really hard to do, that are really emotionally difficult, like Kuljahra is mentioning. So like her, I've written about this this immense global issue of the Uyghur genocide, of the Uyghur diaspora here in the US, how it's been affected by what is happening to its family in its homeland, as well as their activism, how they're working to end this genocide and try to preserve Uyghur culture, even when there's an entire state trying to erase it. I've also written about issues like spiritual abuse and sexual abuse in Muslim communities, which again can be very hard to do reporting on, but I believe it's critical to put some light on these issues and expose them for what they are. I've written about Muslim civil rights issues and discrimination issues, how things like mass incarceration and countering violent extremism policies disproportionately affect American Muslim communities. I write about political efforts and political rhetoric about banning Muslim immigrants from entering this country, and efforts to stop Muslims from building more mosques in this country. So that's definitely a major component of the work. But I also write about lighter stories and stories that are more uplifting about this community, that are really important to put in the media and present a different sort of narrative about our communities. It's very important, I think. I write about Muslim characters in TV shows and Muslim authors who are writing Islamic-inspired science fiction novels and winning major national and international awards for doing it. I write about halal food trucks and how more young Muslims are running for office in this country and becoming elected officials and being able to influence the lawmaking process here. I write about new books and research being published by top universities and research institutions, and about new eco-friendly mosques that are emerging, and green Ramadan initiatives. So things along these lines, how Muslims are working on mental health initiatives, all these sorts of things. And of course, I always end up very busy during Ramadan, then covering how Muslims are getting together and celebrating their faith in really creative and inspiring ways. So obviously, for the past few years, the biggest story of Ramadan was, how are Muslims, it was kind of a question mark, how are Muslims now coming together? This month is so much about building community and, building spirituality through togetherness in many ways. And during the pandemic, the biggest question is, how are Muslims doing that in a time of isolation often, right? In a time of lockdown. Many times mosques are closed or highly restricted. So how are Muslims finding opportunities to build their spirituality and togetherness while they may be on lockdown or while they may be at home or uncomfortable going to the mosque? So that was, it's, you know, been a really fascinating thing to explore how digital communities have really emerged and completely taken off and transformed during this time. Of course, you know, I've been covering digital culture for a long time. I've seen how Muslims have been involved in digital culture and in shaping digital culture for years now. But it's been really amazing to see how things have really transformed and blossomed and flourished in online spaces and virtual spaces during Ramadan. So, you know, people are getting creative with Zoom iftars, right? They're holding gift exchanges, like mailing each other Eid gifts instead of, you know, being able to exchange them with their friends in person. You know, we've seen lots of different projects to maintain a sense of community. You know, people are holding their akika birth ceremony events in isolation. They're holding Ramadan light competitions in their neighborhoods to see, you know, just like a lot of Christian communities do around Christmas. You know, they're decorating their homes publicly with lights and, you know, competing to see who can do it in the most celebratory and, you know, bright, visible manner. You know, that we've seen a lot of, you know, really sweet, adorable photos of children and their families who are building, you know, little replica mosques in their living room spaces at home, you know, using cardboard and paper mache and things like that, and trying to recreate that and build an attachment and a sense of connection to the mosque, even, you know, in their own homes. It's been really interesting to see also that there's been a response from, you know, the government as well, recognizing that sense of isolation. So some neighborhoods have agreed to allow Muslim communities to play their the Azan, the Islamic call to prayer, over the loudspeakers, so everyone can hear it. And even if they're praying at home, they have that sense of togetherness as they're praying. So, of course, Ramadan has always, you know, been a busy time for Muslim journalists because there's always so many stories like this to be covering, whether we're in the pandemic or whether we're outside the pandemic. So, you know, that's always fun to to juggle that. You know, we're getting up early for our suhoor and, you know, preparing our iftar meal and, you know, making sure that we're doing all of our own personal spiritual engagement and spiritual cultivation and all these, you know, really beautiful rituals that we have, while also making sure that we're doing the best job possible representing and covering, you know, all this engagement that's happening within our communities. And for me, there's never really been an issue in terms of, you know, my career and my profession as a journalist versus my faith. For me, I see my work as a journalist as an extension of my faith and me actually living out my faith. I always turn to a number of really beautiful hadith or sayings of the Prophet about the idea of a sort of jihad of the pen, right? That, you know, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said the best form of jihad is to speak a word of truth, of haqq, in the face of an oppressor, or a word of adl, or justice in the face of oppressor is, you know, the best form of jihad. So things along these lines are really inform my work and how I try to go about it, even during a busy month like Ramadan, right? And yeah, so I think a lot of us American Muslim journalists see our faith as part and parcel of the work that we do, rather than, you know, two separate parts of our lives. And I think over the past few years, we've really seen a growth in the number of Muslim journalists who are entering this profession. I think my panelists will agree. We see a lot more Muslim representation in the media, whether that's you know, Muslim journalists or increasingly also Muslim editors and newsroom managers. although that's a little bit slower to see people who are in a little bit more of a position of power as opposed to just just the reporters who are writing stories, but the people who are actually editing those stories or publishing those stories and shaping those narratives more. But the other thing that we unfortunately don't see enough of is a full representation of the just absolutely immense and staggering cultural and racial and ethnic diversity among American Muslim communities. I mean, as you can see here on this panel, but even beyond, American Muslims are, the statistics show that American Muslims are the most ethnically and racially diverse religious community in America. And unfortunately, the media coverage of Muslims doesn't always show that, right? So we see a very narrow idea of what a Muslim looks like, right? And unfortunately, actually, Southeast Asians are not always represented in that image of what American Muslims look like. We don't really see Indonesian, Malay Muslims really, taking a visual spot in what our idea of American Muslims look like, even though, that doesn't really show the reality on the ground of what our communities look like and what their culture is. So I'd love to see this, changing in the next few years, and we'd love to see more Southeast Asian journalists, especially Muslim Southeast Asian journalists, coming to the fore in the U.S. I think that's really an important change that would be very welcome in the media landscape here, and especially on my beat, which is Muslims in America. I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to your questions.
Oh, thank you, Aisa. You cover a wide range of issues, and you are still young. I'm happy to see new blood here. Maybe you can explain about, do you think that the issue or the reporting about Islam in United States still attract viewers, good viewers from the public, American public? Now the next question, the next opportunity will go to Mbak Dania. Are you ready? Oh, before we start, I want to remind our audience that you can start writing down your questions and then we will answer them. Okay? Mbak Dania, time is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Yayan. So let me share my screen real quick. Okay. There you go. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope you all get a chance to have dinner because it's break fasting time there. And thank you so much for having me here to share my experience on covering the stories about Ramadan and diversity in America. First of all, I would like to share a little bit about VOA. For those of you who are not familiar, VOA is we are an international broadcaster providing news and information in more than 40 languages, including Indonesian, to an estimated weekly audience of more than 311 million people. And we produce content for digital, television, and radio platforms. And our main website in English, it's voanews.com, but I work for VOA Indonesia. The same thing, we provide news and information through our affiliates in Indonesia. We reaches 36.5 million people weekly. And then we produce content for TV, radio, and include digital platform, including websites, social media, and podcasts. And our website is voaindonesia.com. So next one. Now I'm going to share about the Ramadan coverage by VOA Indonesia, reporting news and information to Indonesia, which is a country with the world's largest Muslim population, Muslim stories have always been a huge topic, especially during not only during the Ramadan month but throughout the year. So we always cover Muslim stories. However, like all the panelists said, that we're always extra busy during Ramadan because our affiliates in Indonesia, as you may probably see in TV on the TV stations or radio stations, they're always airing Ramadan stories or Muslim stories, and it's always been a popular topic. And we got lots of questions about Ramadan in the U.S. And the stories that we do is ranging from activities during Ramadan, as Aisha mentioned earlier, that during the pandemic we do lots of virtual activities as well in our Indonesian communities. And then we get so used to doing everything at home virtually, and it works. And it seems like there are more people are interested in doing it instead of just going to the mosque because maybe they live far from the mosque, or maybe there's no mosque at all in their community. So I think with the virtual gatherings and activities, it helps them to build, to grow the community, the Muslim community in the US. And then we do stories about interfaith programs, iftars, of course. Iftar at the White House usually has been a huge topic. And then we also do origination stories on Muslims living in the United States. For example, earlier Mbak Yayan mentioned that I reported Comic-Cons. A couple of years ago when I went to San Diego to report the Comic-Cons, I met with Muslim comic artist. Her name is Huda Fahmi. And then she's from Houston, from Texas. And then she wrote a comic book about that has a title that says, "Yes, I'm hot in this," because she's wearing a hijab, and then everyone has always asked her, aren't you hot in your hijab? I mean, yes, of course I'm hot in my hijab. But she's trying to explain about, her daily activities, her day-to-day life as a Muslim comic artist, or just as a Muslim, and then to share more, in a way, educate more people about Muslims, because she has fans from all over the world, including Indonesia, especially the teenagers who are learning more about Islam through Huda Fahmi, through her comedy. So that's really interesting. And we also do stories about mosque and musalla in the US because we always get questions from people from in Indonesia, our audience, who are always asking, in the US, the Muslim community is only this person. I don't want to spoil the answer because it's the question of the day today. So they always ask, how do you guys pray? There's no mosque in the US. Oh, don't worry, we have mosque here. We have musalla even on campus. So it's always been a huge topic as well because they want to know what mosque look like, or whether to is it easy to find halal food. Aisa mentioned that she wrote a story about the halal food trucks, and then we have here a picture of the halal food truck owned by Indonesian couple in Washington D.C. and they sell satay, rendang, so it's delicious food. And for this Ramadan, for this year, VOA Indonesia highlights a couple masjid in the United States and also in Indonesia. One of them is At-Tahir, the first mosque built by the Indonesian community in Los Angeles, but it's open to all Muslims. When my colleague and I, Irfan Isan, my colleague, we went to Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago to cover the Oscars, and also because we have Tohir there, so we went there to visit. This is a really interesting story about Tohir. This used to be a church, but it is very common in the United States for a place of worship to change from one religion to another, because we have to have a specific license to build a place of worship in the United States, and the license is all the same for all religions. So it is easier for the community to purchase a building which already has a license for a place of worship, rather than you buy a regular building and then get a license for it. So it's going to take a long time. But this is an abandoned church, so they purchase it and they renovated into a mosque, and I'm going to play this video.
Masjid Indonesia di Los Angeles, California. Ini dia. Ini adalah salah satu bangunan bersejarah yang tidak boleh diubah struktur bangunannya.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video. So usually after we report a story, we collaborate with the other teams for the TV teams, the digital teams, so they can produce their story in their platforms. So this is actually what we do. So it's a very interesting masjid, and then we get to meet the jama'ah. We did an interview with the community leaders and the person in charge of the mosque. This mosque actually has a guest house, and then it has several classrooms for Sunday school, Quran studies, and then Islamic studies for kids. And they have a hall where they share, where they share food if there are any activities in the mosque. So there are so many activities in this mosque, so it's very interesting. Okay, so move on to the next slide. We did several filmings during Ramadan throughout the years. The first one here in this video, I'm going to share about me and my colleague Nabila Ganinda. We were filming for one of our shows, Dunia Kita, at a musalla in George Washington University in Washington, D.C. So this is very interesting because, again, we get ask so many questions from our audience in Indonesia, or even my friends, how do you pray if you go to campus? You have to be in school from 8 to 4. Where do you pray? Do you play at the library, or do you go home and pray? So how do you do it? Well, this is the answer. George Washington University has a musalla for Muslims, but it's also, they open their musalla for people with different religions, so they can come and maybe just, to meditate or maybe even pray with their own religion. So I'm going to share a little bit. This is how it looks like.
Musola di kampus GW di Washington DC. Nah, musola ini sudah berdiri sejak sekitar 10 tahun yang lalu dan memang lagi sepi ya, sekarang mungkin pada lagi kelas ya, dan tapi musola ini terbuka untuk mahasiswa dan staf dari latar belakang agama yang berbeda-beda juga. Ya, mungkin untuk meditasi, untuk belajar, atau untuk istirahat setelah selesai kelas ya. Iya. Tapi ini menjadi siar yang menarik ya, karena menampilkan sosok Islam yang istilahnya lebih bersahabat dan terbuka untuk seluruh kalangan. Nah, seperti diaspora.
So they have the place for wudu, and then it's a very soothing place, and then they hold Quran studies as well there, and then the Friday prayer. So Muslim students don't have to go out of campus to pray, so they can just go to this Marvin Center to do praying. And then in here, we did a filming at a Middle East bookstore just to showcase how diversity is Washington, D.C. They sell lots of books, Muslim, Islamic books, and then cultural books that's related to Islam, and also some ethnic products, which is very interesting. So we did some filming there. And then here at the bottom, it's during the spring cleaning at the Indonesian mosque in Maryland. It's the Imam Center. So we have a mosque as well in the Washington, D.C. area, which is in Maryland. It's built by the Indonesian community, but it's open to all Muslims. And then this used to be a church as well, but it's converted to a mosque now, and we held so many activities. And I can't wait for this year's Ramadan. I mean, we are already in the Ramadan month, but I can't wait because this year actually they held more activities since the number of COVID cases has lessened. So I can't wait to see more activities in the mosque and especially during Eid later. Okay, and next one. We also do lots of Indonesian Muslim diaspora stories with VOA Indonesia, and then we've been following stories about Indonesians in Ukraine who are evacuating, but there are still some Indonesians who are staying there right now because their husbands cannot go out of the country, so they choose to stay with their husbands. And I got a chance to speak with two Indonesian Muslims there who shares their stories about how Ramadan is in Ukraine, especially in the middle of the war and conflicts. And this is one of them. This is produced by the digital team. I'm going to share with you. This is Mai Saro from Indramayu. She lives in Odessa. Odessa is considered more safe. It's safer than the other cities in Ukraine. So here it is.
Aduh, kasihan banget katanya, nggak makan, nggak minum seharian. Nggak, bukannya kasihan sih, malah justru yang dikangenin orang Muslim, saya bilang. Justru ditunggu-tunggu ini Ramadan. Ini saya masak udang asam manis. Ini kesukaan anakku. Di rumah stres, mencekam karena bim bam itu sering banget di 2 minggu pertama. Cuma setelah 2 minggu kita keluar, aktivitas udah rame, udah biasa lagi seperti biasa. Lagi bikin tempe, kangen makan tempe goreng. Saya sih nggak terlalu makanan sini ya, nggak pas banget di lidah saya. Jadi saya masak ala Indonesia gitu. Ada sih sisi cemburu saya, aduh kalau saya ikut evakuasi saya udah di kampung nih, udah ketemu sanak keluarga di kampung nih gitu. Tapi ya udahlah, konsekuensinya kita tinggal di sini, ya udah harus terima. Antara pilih pulang, ketemu keluarga, dan ninggalin di sini suami dan ibu mertua yang udah sepuh ya. Dilema banget lah, minta doanya aja biar semua bisa berakhir dan cepat ada perdamaian.
Yeah, it's kind of sad in a way, when you interview people and they just open up to you. It's surprising. Sometimes, it's sometimes it can be an encouragement, inspirational. But when I spoke with Mai Saro, it's it's sad. But I'm happy that at least she can still experience Ramadan there, fasting, and then she's still cooking Indonesian food. She mentioned that she cooked tempe, just things that she can find to make it more authentic Indonesians at her home. I also did stories about Indonesian Muslim college students and their Ramadan experience. I spoke with Imam here, Imam Kurniawan. He's a college student at NYU, New York University in New York. And he's very lucky because he lives in Queens. It's very close to the Indonesian community's masjid there, Al Hikmah. So whenever he wants to pray, to do Friday prayer or even break fasting with the Indonesian community, he just go there, and he can get all the takjil and all the good food that he probably miss from home. But when he's on campus, surprisingly, the New York University has its own Islamic center. So he's very lucky that during his busiest time of the day, so he can just go there and pray and at nighttime then he can break fast with the community there. Although it's this is Imam's first Ramadan experience in America, so he meets lots of Muslims from around the world. He tries different food, traditional Ramadan food or ethnic food, like the biryani rice, the kebab, so it's a very nice experience for Imam. And then, like he said to me, it's a privilege, to be able to experience Ramadan in America and then to meet different communities. And then for this year as well, we have a story about a Muslim woman in STEM industry, the science, technology, engineering, and math industry.
Yes.
So this one here is Arsvita. She's currently working at SpaceX. So we're doing stories about her, and then again we ask her as well about how whether wearing a hijab is affecting her work or things like that. But she said that everything's fine. This the office is fine, and they have a space for her to pray at the office, so everything's great.
That's very interesting, Mbak Dania.
Yeah.
And I think we can discuss it later, because
Sure.
we have a lot of questions here.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now, as you mentioned before, that iftar sometimes is a moment of interfaith moment for all of the faiths. Now there is one question from Rika Salsabila Raya. Is it possible for non-Muslims to join activities during Ramadan in your communities? Who's gonna answer first? Gulchera?
Be upon you. And Ramadan Kareem, not only for Muslim, for everyone. Ramadan is sharing. Ramadan is caring each other for human being. So also Uyghur community is, happy to hosting any Uyghurs. I think we recently in the Fairfax area opened the mosque in 1st of Ramadan this year. And also our community is not that huge, but still we are trying to gather and during Ramadan do iftar together, try to pray together. Also they can reach out Uyghur American Association to find out when and where to be a iftar time. And also in Washington, D.C. and Virginia area, also around many countries, we have Uyghur restaurants. You can go and meet with Uyghurs also. So it's to reach out with also the social media platform, so it's easy to reach. But as you know, Uyghurs in this diaspora is not that huge community because of restriction of the Chinese government to the Uyghur people not issuing passport, especially from 2016. Nobody can get out from the countries. So but still we have established every country we live at least an association for Uyghurs. So you can reach out by reaching out those associations.
Can you tell us about your unique experience during fasting in the United States?
Of course, we still working remotely at home. Of course, it's for me, this Ramadan also last year was easier, I can say, because of we are home, so I can maintain the time. Even when we are working before Ramadan, for us is a enjoyment. Of course, in our country, we cannot freely, pray or fasting. So I really start fasting actually after I came to United States, and I'm really enjoying with my kids also. We call each other our friends. How was the Ramadan this year? So it doesn't affect my work that much. And actually, I feel more energetic because we can see the sunrise, and it's for me more time for work focusing. It's a very a peaceful Ramadan for all of us, but for the other countries, some Uyghurs, we focusing also human rights issue because most of the issue come up about the Uyghurs is not that happy news, as you know. Recently, the latest news was the Uyghur woman and with her 13 years daughter in Mecca, held in Riyadh, could be deported to China within hours, actually, right now. So all the Uyghur communities also creating um, uh, to express their concern, you know. So right now we all the news about attention also to this woman and her 13 years old daughter have been in custody since they were detained in Mecca earlier this month. So we are praying for her also. We are praying for all the Uyghurs cannot pray and the fasting in this holy month. So please make dua for all Uyghurs who cannot pray and who cannot, fasting in this holy month also.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. We'll pray for her. And Badania or Aisha, can you add something about the unique experience during the fasting month in the United States?
Probably same as Gushera. I've been enjoying working from home. Yesterday, actually, well, on Tuesday, actually, it was we went back to work to the office for cleaning as well. Um, so yeah, it's been interesting. Fasting at home. I think I get to cook more than usual. So my kids are happy. So yeah, but with the gathering, if I can add to the questions earlier, actually the Permias, the Persatuan Mahasiswa Indonesia di Amerika Serikat, is holding an iftar with Pak Dubes yang baru. They're going to hold a iftar with all students, so it's for all Muslims. So it's still possible for non-Muslims to follow the Ramadan activities in the U.S. That's what I can add. Yes.
What about you, Aisha?
Yeah, it's actually the food festival every Ramadan for all the Muslim people. I think we cook whatever the best food as well at home. Also, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say for me personally, at my home it's just me and my husband usually. So for us, we are really able to not focus on food, right? So we just eat a little bit at sahur, and then during the day I cook something so it's ready for iftar, and we kind of detach a little bit from food in that way, which I think has been really healthy mentally and perhaps physically too, I hope. but generally when I'm with my entire family, back at my parents' house, and certainly growing up, there was a lot more focus on a sort of like communal food experience. So for a few hours before iftar, everyone's down in the kitchen making their favorite thing. My family's Pakistani American, so we love to make like a fruit chaat, like a fruit salad with a lot of the masala spices in there and things like that. So just try it. So we take a lot of joy, I think, as Muslims in general, also making food for people who are fasting. so that when they break their fast, they have a really enjoyable experience, right? You've been waiting all day for this moment, so we want to really make it a pleasurable experience to be breaking your fast. But also like being mindful about, we don't want to be eating something too heavy. In Pakistani culture, there's a lot of fried food. And people love to do that for iftar, but trying to make sure that you're not, going too far in that direction either. But yeah, to the question about whether non-Muslims can participate, I think Muslims generally, at least in the US, take this month as an opportunity to open an invitation to non-Muslims to build community together, because for a lot of people, a lot of Americans have heard of Ramadan, right? They might not know exactly what it is, but most of them, perhaps even who are in interfaith spaces, certainly have heard of Ramadan. They're familiar with it to some extent, right? So you can take this invitation. A lot of mosques and Muslim student groups and Muslim advocacy and social justice groups take the invitation, take the opportunity to invite Christian, Jewish, non-theistic, Hindu, whatever it might be, friends to join them for iftar, to learn more about their community. Many mosques hold like open houses and open iftar, so anyone and everyone can join us, things like that. And then also, Ramadan is also, of course, a very important time for charity and charitable giving and philanthropy. So we definitely see a big increase in that during Ramadan. And you'll see a lot of Muslims during this month going and participating in, they might go to a Christian food bank and volunteer, or a soup kitchen or something, homeless shelter, or those sorts of things, and volunteering there. So a lot of interfaith activity is happening during this month for that reason.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I think this question goes to all of you. What is the most interesting topic when you cover about Islam issue that you think really attract public viewer?
For me, I would say politics.
Politics?
Yeah, especially over the past couple years, or past few years rather, Muslims have really become a sort of hot topic in American politics. I mean, obviously you saw that with the previous president, but even well before that, there was always a lot of conversation about, what is the place of American Muslims in this country, and what is their role? And there's always sorts of controversial policies and political rhetoric happening around Muslim communities. So people are always very interested in it from that perspective, and how are Muslims reacting to these issues, and how are Muslims getting involved in politics and things like that. That's just one issue, I would say, that gets a lot of attention.
Any issue about hijab?
People ask about it a lot. Yeah, people ask about it a lot, but I don't think there's necessarily more interest in reading those stories. I think perhaps you guys as more like multimedia journalists see this more because, it's so visual. So people are very interested in when they see a hijab, they want to see an explanation of what it is. But I think as somebody who does more, written journalism, I don't think it's quite as prevalent, although it is.
Banania?
If I can add. Yeah, so because one of my focuses is Indonesian diaspora in the United States or around the world. So it's very interesting to get their stories, especially if they're Muslims, Muslims in this industry, Muslims who are in politics, Muslims who do this and who do that. And as Bayan also mentioned about experience wearing hijab, that's also the questions from our audience, because sometimes I still get questions, is it okay to come to America wearing hijab? Or what happened at the airport? Do we have to uncover our hijab and all that? So through this Indonesian Muslim diaspora, I think we're trying to empowering Muslims in Indonesia as well, or just to make them more confident about who they are. Like I spoke with Arsvita, the person who works at SpaceX. I asked her, is it okay for your office if you wear a hijab? I'm just asking questions because that's what the audience wants to know. And she said, I'm just being confident. This is who I am. If they want to ask questions, just ask me. So, yeah. So everything's fine. Everything's great. But it's very interesting to get their answers. So.
Good chair. Can you add
Of
more?
course, we more focusing about the politics also. Unfortunately, it seems majority of Muslim community, especially the governments, is actually actively collaborating with China's global campaign against Uyghurs. So it's very unfortunate, to see that. And as Muslim journals, as a young generation, we should raise the concern about that issue. Also, because more than 20 million of Muslims living in that regime, and without any Muslim other countries' help, even raise the concern. So it's a very unfortunate situation. So I wish and more Muslim journals could focusing that issue and have courage to ask the governments about this, genocide, why they are believing a Chinese regime who is war on, Islam, and just blind to this situation where the million of Muslims suffering just because of their faith, their religion, and just because of their wants to, live like a human being, live like, the Muslim, just like around the world. So it's a big issue. And the journalism is protector for the truth. So for that, of course, we have to have courage to speaks true to the world. So there's many millions of people looking and hoping to get help from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there is one special question for Aisha. This question coming from a stand-up comedy enthusiast. She's a fan of Hassan Minhaj. Aisha, do you have any experience in reporting Muslim stand-up comedy scene in the US? Can you elaborate the role of Muslim stand-up comedians for the youth in dealing with discrimination or negative stereotype issues, or even probably the parents they are facing? Is there any experience dealing with them, Aisha?
I myself have not written an article just about stand-up comedy, although it sounds like a great idea. But I have written about stand-up comedy, especially influential figures like Hassan Minhaj, Dean Obeidullah. There are a number of others who have really kind of risen up the ranks and become very, very visible, very public, and very prominent. I don't think perhaps no one has become as popular as Hassan Minhaj in terms of comedians that are very, very open about their Muslim identity and make jokes about that. Of course, you have people like, Dave Chappelle and others. but Hassan Minhaj has really become prominent in part because he talks about his Muslim identity as part of his stand-up comedy routine, right? So I would agree with you that it's played a large role in making in sort of combating these issues of discrimination. It has certainly given an avenue for a lot of young Muslims who are getting into the space to talk about their faith in a public forum, and to show people that, you know, Muslims can laugh at themselves. You know, we're not like all, you know, completely serious people. We enjoy humor, and you know, we love to laugh, and we can make you laugh too. And also showing that there are universal experiences that we all share. So this is, I think, something very important about stand-up comedy and Muslim storytelling in general, that we're able to capture non-Muslim audiences as well by showing that, you know, we all actually have a lot of shared experiences, even if you don't believe the same things about God that I do, perhaps, right? Or maybe you don't wear a hijab, or maybe you don't fast during Ramadan, right? But we still have a lot of common experiences, you know, with our parents, or when we go to the mosque, or other things like that. Yeah, there have been a number of pieces done about the Muslim stand-up comedy scene over the past few years. I'll put a few links in the chat if that would be helpful.
And the next question is a bit serious. What is the major challenge do you face as Muslim journalist? Who's gonna answer? Mbak Dania? The major challenge.
Well, maybe not real. Let's see. Well, one time, this is also a concern from some people too. I did a report. I went to Imam Center, the mosque here in Washington D.C., and I think that is after the one of the shooting case. I think it's in New Zealand. So we went there to speak with the community leaders about these issues, and then we were filming outside, and then they were questioning us because they're afraid that someone can just come and then film. So sometimes we get asked questions, even though that's in our own community. We got asked about what were you doing here, because we're trying to be just to make sure that everyone is okay, so not just a random people filming. And that happens to one of my colleagues as well, when they went to report a mosque in another cities, and sometimes they got asked questions, or sometimes maybe they already had an appointment with the community leaders for an interview, and sometimes at the spot they will say, oh, you know what, I changed my mind because this is not safe. So sometimes that happens, so we get to deal with that.
Major challenge faced by Muslim journalists.
Actually, I didn't face any the problem or challenge. I mean, if we travel, sometimes you feel especially when you cross the board, facing the same as other Muslim women who have their hijab, so more security check. Other than that, I didn't feel any difference.
And
I would also say travel can be complicated, not immensely so, but it can be annoying to deal with that. Yeah. But also, I think one other issue is that sometimes editors and even readers have this sort of false idea that, well, you're a Muslim, so you can only write about Muslim things. That's one thing, right? That you're pigeonholed into only writing about this community. That's the only thing that you can understand. And on the flip side, sometimes readers and editors will also think, well, you're a Muslim, so you can't write objectively about Muslims, right? Like you're biased towards them, and you're not going to show the real truth about them. So, there's these two sorts of issues that you can end up being trapped between.
And now this question is quite unique because she asked about how you practice Muslim, you pray about praying. Do you really need to find a mosque if you want to pray, or if you don't find any mosque, how do you pray? The question comes.
Hello.
Yep. Go ahead.
May I? Okay. Yeah. So in America right now, you can find not far from your neighborhood any mosques, I think, especially in my area in Virginia, we have many other mosques. They welcoming everybody. So it's a public mosques. And regularly we pray at home, of course. Even at the office, as Radio Free Asia, they provide for the Muslim journals separate, actually, one office for praying. So we share that prayer room with other Muslim friends, very close to our section, Uyghur service. So we use that. We are very appreciative for that opportunity. It's been more than 10 years, I think. They opened for us. Our management open for the praying. They saw us. We are praying, like just finding little spot to pray sometimes, especially in the Ramadan time. Of course, sometimes it's very hard to pray in the office. We miss our prayers and they come home and then we repray. But during this pandemic time, it's actually one of the good opportunities to pray on time and even pray with kids as a family. It's very, enjoyable, I think.
What about you, Mbak Dania?
It's the same thing as Gulshera. We have a room that it's a storage room, but it's empty and it's clean that we use for praying. It's right behind my cubicle at the office, so it's very convenient. And we just do the wudu at the bathroom, and then we go there to pray. Or before we have that storage room, we can just pray in our cubicle. And I also live in Virginia. Yes, we do have a mosque here, although it's not close but not far. But yeah, we can go there. And then Friday prayers are also held here around my house. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to ask a male journalist about this, maybe Muslim, because the question comes from male journalist, male audience. Of course, he needs to find a mosque for Friday prayers. And now the next question is about, do you see a lot of young female Muslims in the US pursuing journalism career? Mbak Dania.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I met Muslim journalists, and here are a Muslim journalists as well. I think it's becoming more of a field that everybody's interested, whether you're Muslims or non-Muslims. It's a field that's very interesting to do, to share stories from others. Yeah.
What about you, Gulshera?
I don't know about the specific, the number of Muslim journals. Of course, America is a free country. If you want to show your religion identity, it's your choice. But maybe I feel there's many Muslim journals around the major media, I think, but maybe they don't wear hijab. That's why we cannot, just single out them from the other journalists to recognize them. So, but as I know, when I went to some events, I can see, more and more people wearing hijab and say assalamu alaikum when they saw me. So as a Muslim, we all, if we recognize other Muslim, we say salam. So I feel it's much more young generation is participating, journalism career. I think it's a good thing.
What about you? Oh, thanks. What
I
about you,
absolutely
Aisha?
see it as well. I see it as well, especially young women. I think there's, I'm not even sure why that is, but there's, I think, there are many more young Muslim women who are entering this field than men. I think, like, I'm very active on Twitter, and I can see a lot of young Muslim women who are becoming interns at places like NPR, National Public Radio, CNN, Washington Post, and other places where not just interns, but also becoming, audio journalists there, becoming reporters there, and entering the professional field. So I think in a few years we'll see that a lot of these young journalists who are still emerging, entering, more prominent positions and taking leadership roles in their institutions. But I mean, I think there's a new wave coming, but there's definitely a large number of Muslim journalists who are already in the media and already helping shape narratives in a very important way.
I saw, especially in the social media.
And still, we are talking about social media. Do you think that we still need mainstream media?
Of course.
I think so, because it's a question about trust. And, if people need institutions that they can trust and that they feel are reliable. And there's also a difference between generally, there's a difference between the standards, editorial standards, and, the importance on accuracy and fact checking and things like that mainstream news institutions, they often have the resources to be able to do that. Whereas people who are doing this as independent, freelancers or podcasters or just posting on Twitter or whatever it might be, they're not always able to put in that, the fact checking and the full rigor that you ideally can have through mainstream established media outlets.
What about you, Badania? Can you add something?
I think Aisha's answers is already good, but I think it's very important as well if we have mainstream media to as a one of the source, But us as readers, we just have to be careful to choose which media. That's balance. That's the important thing.
Now, my next question is about misinformation in the media or in public. Do you think that there is a misinformation about Islam in the US? Because people don't learn or don't know about Islam from the right sources.
Yes, we feel, especially who the country who very close to Chinese Communist Party, as like Pakistan, Afghanistan, all those communities, Afghan or Pakistan communities, in the US or other free country, because they're still attached to their country's media, they can see, and they seems to more believing what is their major media saying. Even we feel that sometimes in the preacher, some mosque, when you go to some mosques, and they will questioning about this, is it really is going on? The genocide, those kind of questions. Yeah, I feel like what media you were focusing, So they were like, because of propaganda of Chinese government, using all those countries' media to propaganda about their policy toward the Muslim. That's why we saw the 2 weeks ago, Imran Khan even compare CCP to, our prophet. It's nonsense. So it's really affecting, actually. So we need more, Muslim journalists to focusing about what their communities are talking about, those all major issue among the world, actually, because China or other country, no freedom of speech, no freedom of press, they will use their opportunity to providing wrong information to their community, even in the US and other countries, I think.
And what about you, Mbak Dania? Can you add anything about this misinformation?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do at VOA Indonesia. So we're trying to showcase the life of Muslims here too. So if they see something they think that is it real, is it true, or is it wrong, or is it irrelevant, then we're trying to give the voice of Muslims here through our stories to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I need your closing statement. Start from Luciana.
Thank you very much. I need to repeat my earlier, speech. During Ramadan, please pray for those people who cannot pray freely, and the fasting, and the whole world. This world is just like our home for everybody. We have to treat any person like our sister, as our brother. So we all as one human being. So please, showing your care and share. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Ayesha.
Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, for listening, for asking questions. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen and engage with this. I think it's really lovely thing to be able to engage with our brothers and sisters in faith across the country and learn from one another. And I hope you guys feel like you learned a little bit more about the situation of Muslims in the United States, and what the media industry looks like, and what Muslims engagement with the media looks like in this country. Wishing you all a blessed and happy Ramadan, and Assalamualaikum.
Salam. Mbak Dania, your chance.
Thank you so much for having me here to share some stories about Ramadan and the diversity and all the stories that we've done with VOA Indonesia. And Ramadan has always been a blessing. It's time for us to learn more, to be mindful, to be grateful. So I think this is the time to kind of slow down. Well, not really slow down with work, but to be mindful. That's the word. So
Yes.
I think this is a very important topic, and I hope you guys can learn more about what's happening in the US through our eyes, and we're welcome more questions. Follow us probably on social media, that we can probably chat more. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Channel Hoja. Thank you, Mbak Dania. Thank you, Ayesha Khan. This discussion is very insightful, intriguing, fascinating, and fruitful. Now, I'd like to thank you to all the audience, UIN Araniri Banda Aceh, UPN Veteran Yogyakarta, Universitas Al-Azhar Jakarta, STAI Al-Fatah Bogor, UIN Jakarta, Universitas Atmajaya Jakarta, Universitas Indonesia, Universitas Multimedia Nusantara, and also American Corner at Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang and Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. And we go back to America. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Ramadan Karim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much to our speakers and moderator for sharing your stories as journalists. We wish you happy Ramadan. So early in this event, we had a question of the day. The question was, what percentage of the United States population is Muslim? And the answer is A, 1.1%. Shout out to @angita.anindita from Instagram for answering correctly. Thank you to everyone who has participated to our question of the day. Don't forget to tune in next time and catch a chance to get a live shout out from us. Now you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea with a place like this? Very easy. You can send your event proposal to us on our website at www.atamerica.or.id. Select Create a Program and go to Collaborate with us. All the event proposals will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. While you're on our website, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter to get our weekly event updates. You can also follow us. We are on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at AT America. You can get fun content, giveaways, and so much more. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, thanks for joining us. My name is Aninda, and see you next time. Bye-bye.